evening, everyone. Thanks again for this inaugural edition of our Echo TV uh, news cap, where we like a summary review of the exciting things that we present as a company. I'll just give a brief about the company. So it's Oaks Intelligence Limited, and we have diverse offerings. One of our offerings is in data analytics. Basically, what we do across the country is that we have enumerators across local governments around the 36 states and FCT gathering data on a weekly basis across the different sectors, from food to transportation to accommodation, to the cost of commodities, to the number of hours of availability of electricity, etc. So we gather all of these data every week from our enumerators, and then we use that to do a deep dive, giving us insight into the health or the pulse of the country, as it were. And from this data, we do produce three important reports. The first one is what we call the Echo News. Basically, that's where we source news about the happenings across the country, and that comes out every Monday at 9 a.m. So please do well to subscribe to our newsletters. On Wednesdays, we have what is called the Echo Tracker. So that's where we bring the analysis of the data gathered the previous week, and then we present it in form of, like a report along with the leaderboard. And then on Friday, we have the Echo Tales. So the Echo Tales is more of a comedy rendition. It's a comic rendition of what's happening in the country, but then presented in form of comics by our copywriting team. All of these are all available by subscribing to our newsletters, and of course they are available free to use. We're also a software development company, as well as we're also into research, and of course we conduct surveys across the country on various headline issues. Today with me here I have the MD of the company, that's Peter Popola. I also have our lead data analyst, that's Tobiloba Babajide. And of course, I have one of our team leads, that's Chidima Olai. And I am, of course, the host for today, Chuka Monye. We might be joined by one or two others of our staff, just trying to give us a bit of input. I'll just go ahead and ask Peter. Peter, last time we met last week, when we were doing the pre-trial for this station, I asked you about your outlook for the country for the next 1 week. So it's a week now. Then looking back, in hindsight, what do you think?
I read the Echo News that we released just this morning. And I would say that it appears that the current government is actually trying to put in some like reasonable policies in place. Because like we said last week, it's the solution not solution, but the path to the solution to Nigeria's problem will have to be the policy part, right? So it has to be something that has to do with the enacting of policies that will really help the country. So in that respect, I heard that they borrowed money to, much is it, 20? Hold on, just they borrowed, I think it was 500 million, or I'm just checking now, just so I don't misquote the numbers. Okay. So they said they want to, so they borrowed $400 million from the World Bank for a continual cash transfer to 15 million households. I'm not too sure how that's going to end borrowing, but they say that's the way they want to end this. Okay, that's one. And then there's another thing that they did, which is they're trying to bolster there's a Ijora Central Workshop. They're trying to sort of build it and do a public-private partnership model to cause it to come online and begin to work. So I think these are some of the things that the government is doing, which I think are good steps in the right direction generally, that will help. Of course, we might not, like I said last week, we might not even see the impact of these things during the tenure of this government. But if there are things that are done and the government actually sticks to their guns, because some things will have to be done that the populace will not be comfortable with. But because I don't want these things to be too long, but generally, emotions and economics don't also go together. There are some things that the government will do that will stir up positive emotions. Like, okay, for example, when you hear that there's a minimum wage, or when you hear that they've brought subsidy back, some of those things, emotionally people are like, yeah, the government is doing well, but economically they might not be the best. On the flip side, there's some things that they will do, like, okay, removing fuel subsidy, or no minimum wage anymore, or maybe like doing some things to free up the private sector, right? People might be like, this thing makes things so difficult, and it might not appeal to people that don't know about it. But in the long run, it will be beneficial. So the question is, does the government have the willpower, at least for the first couple of years, to implement some of these policies that will pay in the long run? That's what we have to find out.
Okay, Toby, 1 minute. Last week you were not positive. Your outlook for the country was positive. Between last week and now, our currency has even devalued further. The cost of rice has gone higher. Cost of different food items, have gone higher. Of course, we still see some activities and traction from the same government trying to stimulate the economy. But we agreed last time during the trial, so for the launch of this TV series, that there are no shortcuts, to getting done what needs to be done. There are the idea of palliatives or short-term benefits will not cut it this time around. In hindsight, what do you think?
I think it remains the same, basically, and I agree with what Mr. Peter just said about the fact that it's beyond just generating responses, basically emotional responses from people, because there are things that can be done that can be put in place that make you feel like, oh, they are doing something good. But when you actually stand and think about it, the effects don't really tend to last long. So, in my opinion, my opinion has not changed. It remains the same. I'm still hoping and looking forward to a situation whereby there are policies and there are actions taken to actually put the country in the right direction. Because it's not just we don't just need obviously a one-time fix cannot even work. That's obvious. And so we need policies that will put things into motion, right? That will put the development into motion. And so far, I'll say we are still open, and just like Mr. Peter shared, we hope that things like this can maybe continue to spring up, that can continue to push the country forward. But if you're looking at in terms of the figures, the values, and the reality of things that have not gotten better in the last week. The Nigerian exchange rate has worsened over the past week compared to the dollar, pound, and the euro in both the CBN market and the black market. So it's, I don't know, let's just say we can still try to remain hopeful, but reality is not anything to achieve our hope.
So no hope in sight yet in the near future. Chidima, you are one of our data team leads, and so basically what happens in the company is that we have a custom software. We call it the DCF DMS system, so it's a data capture form and a data management system, and that's what we use in managing data for data collection across the country. So our enumerators have unique login details. They feed in data on a weekly basis, make comments and annotations, and Chidima is one of our team leads managing about 10 states or thereabout. And so our work is to ensure that the data collected from our own team leads, our own enumerators, they're correct, they're clean, before approving them and sending them over to the lead data analyst. Chidima, what's the general pulse from data from the states that you mentioned? Give us one or two states that you cover. What are you seeing from the data being supplied by your enumerators?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So currently I cover Abia to Delta State, and that's 10 states. So I cover Southeast, South, Northeast. So I would say my states are really spread, and the economy is really telling on the data we get weekly, because foodstuff generally are on the increase. So we have like a graph sheet where you could monitor the prices of food weekly. And this graph gives you the trend and the temperature of really what is going on in the economy. On a daily most times, on a weekly most times, because we collect this data weekly, you see a range of change in prices, and it's actually an increase in prices. So you see the graph is actually going on a direct upward range. There's no coming down. Rarely do you see that, a price of good, let's say the price of a good was 10,000 naira and then this week is 8,000 naira. And it happens across all states, even the north, because I cover a number of north and eastern states. So you even have Borno, you have Adamawa, you have Borno, Adamawa, even Bauchi. It's actually the same temperature all around. And I would not say that it's getting better, to be honest, because even the enumerators themselves complain of the tea fare they have, that's the transport fare they have to spend in going to collect this data. So they themselves are even having to go through the changing economic situation themselves, and then the general population is also feeling it, because food is the basic necessity of life. So everybody needs food, everybody eats food. And it's surprising to know that even in the northeastern states where you have a lot of this production, the massive production of cereals, like you have rice, you have potatoes, you have tomatoes, you expect things to be better. But I think insecurity also contributed to all these things, because a lot of the farmers actually are not really involved in farming again because of insecurity in the northeast, especially in states like Borno. Then also, not only that, a lot of them don't have a lot of storage facilities. So you have seasons where things generally are cheaper. Like, for example, you have the tomato season where you feel, okay, tomatoes is cheaper because the temperature, the environment supports the production. But because these farmers lack storage facilities, storage culture, you don't really have good support from government and other organizations, these things get to waste. And so when you don't have them in season, the few that have them in season, it's a scarce commodity. And just like the dollar, it's becoming really expensive. So I think it's the same thing all around. Food items are really expensive. Even housing, because we also collect data on housing. Housing is also getting expensive because cost of maintenance also. I mean, these landlords also have to maintain the house, and at the end of the day, the consumer is actually at the receiving end.
All right, thank you very much, Chidima. Toby, you are our lead data analyst. I mean, Chidima covers just a few states there. You get to aggregate all of the data across the country. What's the national average telling you, like from our dashboard? I mean, for the last week, what's happening across the country? You're muted, Toby.
All right, my apologies. So if you take a look at, let's take a look at a few items like food items, and as well as fuels that we have in the country. In terms of food items, for retail food items that we cover, we see that the price of turkey is the highest, is the priciest commodity basically, and tomatoes are the cheapest commodity. However, week on week, we see that there have been price increases all around the country, basically. So, for example, between last week and this week, the price of tomatoes rose by 22% in 1 week. The price of beans rose by 4%. The price of chicken rose by 3%. Bread rose by 2.5%. Yam rose by 2.3%. And beef rose by 1.9%. There are also some other price increases, but these are, some major ones that I just want to point out. And we see at some point this year, the price of tomatoes was about 300 and something naira. Now tomatoes goes for 480 naira. So, and that's the cheapest commodity per kilogram. So that's really telling on the situation of things. So the fact that things like gari are even very expensive. The 1 kilo of gari goes for 1,700 naira currently, and one kilogram of chicken goes for an average of 2,900 naira. So that's looking at retail food items, but that's not the only one where we have this kind of influence. So, for example, in terms of wholesale food items as well, looking at 50 kilogram items, we see that the prices of those items are also increasing. So rice goes for about 45,000 or 46,000 naira per 50 kilogram right now. And rice used to be, as of 2 months ago, it used to be around maybe 39 or 38,000 naira, maybe maximum 41,000 naira. But in just 2 months, they're losing by 4,000 naira or thereabouts. Tomatoes also go for 39,000 naira, and beans go for 36,000 naira per kilogram. Gari seems to be quite cheap in wholesale category, so it's still going for around 20,000 naira or 15,000 naira, and that's still fair. But looking at some other commodities that we cover in the country, we cover the prices of other commodities like fuel, soya, petrol, kerosene, cooking gas. And as predicted last week, I said that the price of some of these items are going to see an increase. And, we've begun to see those increases. So fuel rose again by 1.2% within the last week. Kerosene rose by 1.5%, and diesel rose by about 2% last week. So diesel, 1 kilogram of diesel now goes for about 936 naira in the country. While
you mean a kilogram or a liter of diesel?
A liter of petrol, that's 1 liter of petrol, and 1 liter of diesel rather, yes. And 1 liter of kerosene goes for 942 naira in the country as well. So those commodities, essential commodities by the way, are seeing weekly increases. Some other prices that we see that express an increase were prices of accommodation in the country. So in all the categories of accommodation that we cover in the country, we saw that there was a price increase, particularly for duplexes. So for a yearly rent of duplex now, we have spent over 1 million naira on average in the country, and that is about a 9% increase compared to last year. And you would assume that, or you would believe that the price of and the cost of accommodation should not be so volatile to see increases weekly or as quickly as that, because usually it takes time for them to make sense. But that's not the case. And this one is one that I myself I was just checking around for prices of these houses or rent in the state where I live in my state, and it will be surprising to see that 2 kilogram and two bedroom apartments are going for close to 600,000 or 700,000 in rent. And we are not even talking about the urban or the major areas in Oyo State, Ibadan. If you look at some of the major areas like Okja or some estates, that's spent over 1.5 million for a 2-bedroom apartment. So if you are spending that much in Ibadan, imagine how much you're spending in Lagos, for the same category of accommodation. So it's really like I said, it's one that is quite shocking. You have spent over 1.2 million naira, like I said, for accommodation. For 1-bedroom apartments, you have spent over 150,000 naira now. And for 2 rooms, on average, in the country, you have spent about 300,000 naira. So these are just some of the major highlights that we have for our analysis this week. As well, if you want to look at electricity, we saw that the national average was at 7 hours of electricity.
Sorry, how many hours to be?
7 hours of electricity last week, which is not even up to 50% of the available power supply, because we should be having 168 hours per week, but we are struggling with 7 hours. So places struggle with having 2 hours, 25 hours of electricity in 1 week, and that's mainly Zamfara State. So again, it's not looking on all fronts. It's not looking very encouraging. What can we do?
Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for the ultimate challenge of the year. Here you stand a chance to win up to 20,000 naira cash prize. Introducing the 3K Jollof Rice Challenge. You were able to make jollof rice with only 3,000 naira across the nation. And all you have to do is come up with a creative caption for this video and share it for the world to see. It's all about the caption. Rally your friends, family, neighbors, co-workers, and heck, even your pets if they can vote. Get everyone to vote for you. Now let's skip to the best part. The second runner-up with at least 45 votes will take home the sum of 5,000 naira, while the first runner-up with a minimum of 90 votes will pocket 10,000 naira, and the winner with no less than 150 votes will be walking away with 20,000 naira. So what are you waiting for? Start brainstorming those captions. Gather your troops and prepare to unleash your creativity. To win, create a captivating caption for the 3K Jollof video and share the video with your caption. Tag Ox Intelligence and use the hashtag 3K Jollof Challenge. Include your voting link and encourage your friends to vote for you. Like and follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn with the name Ox Intelligence. You can also connect with us on Twitter and Instagram at Ox Intel. Get ready to caption, vote, and win. Good luck.
Hi there. Are you interested in getting weekly updates on interesting economic news, prices of commodities across the country, and many more? Subscribe to our EcoWeather weekly newsletter where we bring you updates across the country. To subscribe, open your browser and input the shortened link. After you have opened the page, input your details like your email address, first name, and last name, after which you click on the subscribe button. Now you are always on top of important updates across the country.
Yeah, thanks, Toby. So just for those who are not aware, if you go on our website, www.oxintelligence.co/dashboard, you'll have access to our Tableau dashboard from Ox Intelligence Limited, where you're able to see all of this data historically that we've been gathering since January of 2023 till date. So basically, you can select the food items, either retail or wholesale. You can go to transportation. So you have all of these things animated. Then you can see the changes across states or geopolitical zones or local government in the country. Peter, I want to go back to you. 22% increase in a week for tomato. Minimum wage, we still have not heard anything from the government with regards to that. So I want to understand what's happening here, because we see inflation figures, right? We do know that the inflation figures they come from, they have a basket and they have their own way of measuring inflation. That's fine. But 22% increase in a food commodity, in a food item, tomato, in 1 week. And yet, our minimum wage still remains the same. We continue to hear stories about minimum wage and all that. How do you think people are surviving across the country?
I mean, okay. There's like, I can answer this question in different ways. The first thing is, how many people are actually paying the minimum wage we're talking about here? If we're talking about minimum wage, how many people are actually earning the minimum that has been put in food? Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is, I don't think minimum wage is the solution to the problem, because like I said last week, a minimum wage will only exacerbate the problem. By the time you make, especially if it is being enforced. I know there's like two versions. There's minimum wage where it only applies to government parastatals or government bodies, and there's where they now enforce it on the private sector too. If that is done, we are going to have more problems. Okay, what I think needs to be done, or what? Well, I mean, I'm not like an expert, and I'm just giving my opinion based on what a little bit of research I've done. What I think needs to be done is, like I said last week, to power the private sector. I was thinking about something when we were talking about long-term, like needing, like the solution being long-term. Right? But then it occurred to me that if you look at the stock market, I read something in our Eco News today again, which was saying something about the Nigerian exchange having a low outlook because of some things and all that stuff. And there are some decisions. Okay, for example, you know the way the market works, right? People watch what the government does, right? And like what the government does, when they announce whether there's an interest rate hike and all that stuff, and that affects the market, right? If the government can show that they're actually serious and implement policies that are investor friendly, right? So because that is like a more short-term solution. I mean, the problem of insecurity is there, but at least thank God it's not like it's not so bad, right? I mean, it is bad, but there are some areas of the country where it's still a bit manageable. Okay, so then if the government can put in favorable policies. I was reading somewhere where it was said that I think it was India or something. They had their policies were very anti-investment and all that stuff. There was a lot of red tape for business creation and all that stuff. And when they removed those, I guess it was in 1980s, around 1980s, early 90s, when they adopted a more private sector friendly stance, right? Like just losing some of the red tape, allow foreign investment and all that stuff. That boosted the economy. So that's what I'm saying, that might be something that will help in the short term, because what happens when foreign investment comes, foreign direct investment, jobs are created, like there's just, now, that's what we need. Sorry to talk for long. What we need is, prices are going up, right? We need people to earn more in the free market, not in a constrained market, not in a regulated market. We need people to we need their income to increase due to forces of demand and supply and price, controlled and regulated by price. So yeah, that's what I
4 minutes to go. Toby, we're back to the leaderboard, and I'm just going through the leaderboard. And can you? Anambra State is the least affordable state in the country, even worse than Lagos. How is that possible?
Yes, so when considering the leaderboard, like we have on the leaderboard, we see that there are several categories that are considered when looking at the final score of the leaderboard. And we see that Anambra State has been in the lower end of the table for a number of weeks now, along the River States. Even the River, thankfully, I don't know what they did or what happened, but they are no longer in the bottom 10. And we cannot say all we can say is what that shows us, which is that this past week things were very expensive in Anambra State. And this leaderboard is calculated based on the data that we got last week. So Lagos usually falls in even though people assume that things are very expensive in Lagos, and what people fail to consider is that some of those things are, even though in general, yes, that's true, but some of those things are more specific to certain areas of Lagos. So if you go to other sides of Lagos, some larger parts of Lagos, you might find things at more affordable rates. So Lagos, even though there's a negative sentiment of Lagos, but Lagos usually falls in the middle of the pack. But shockingly, the states that fall at the bottom are usually the southeastern states. And that one, I really have not been able to place my finger on it yet. But one thing I always say is that the data always suggests to us that things are much more expensive over in south regions of the country, right? And to no surprise, the northern states dominate the top 10 part of the country. But what we always emphasize is that the fact that things are cheap and affordable there does not mean that there's a better quality of life, right? So the top 10 being northern states, northwest, northeastern states, doesn't mean that they enjoy a better quality of life and those that fall in the bottom part of the table. But it's quite interesting. But this is one of the first weeks that I'm seeing Lagos in the bottom 10. Lagos is usually doing much better than and even Ogun State as well. But
okay. It is what it is. All right, thank you very much, all. I think we are about to call it close for this inaugural broadcast. In 1 minute, Toby, what's your outlook for the next one for the country?
This weekly outlook, I don't know. I try to remain positive, but if there's something that Nigeria has taught me over the years, is that there's little we can look forward to. So I hope things get better, but I'm not having high hopes. I've looked at the data for a long time now. Sincerely, I do not have high hopes that things are going to be very better, like very. I can just remain hopeful. So, let's see what happens.
Okay, Peter.
I don't know. Okay. Let me try to. Okay, if you. No, I want to just try to be a bit more on the positive side. Sorry, somebody just. So what I'm saying is, if I've been looking at the news for a while, and it looks like this government wants to, or is trying to be deliberate in their policy making. From the little I've seen, I don't know, and so I don't know if that is going to continue, or I've not even really studied in depth what the impact will be. But it looks like they're actually wanting to make like right economic policy. So what I would say is, I'm not hoping that by next week everything will become better, but it's possible, and there's some likelihood that the train will not capsize.
Like, yeah.
Okay. For me, I'll just say, contrary to what Mr. Peter says, I think the policies they've been making so far are really not even encouraging, because I feel the first thing you do for any nation is actually to increase your purchasing power and your production capacity. And so far, the inflation rate has really affected a lot of SMEs, that's small and medium enterprises, which are actually the mainstay of any growing economy. And these are the people that employ the 5, the 10, the 15, the 20 persons that are actually maybe breadwinners or mainstay players in homes. And having these people disempowered is actually disempowering the nation as a whole. So I think if there's anything this government really has to do, is actually to sit down and really see what exactly do we want, where are we starting from. And I think they have to put a lot of consultancy on the table and maybe deal less with nepotism. And I think it will really help us. But so far, I'm really not really impressed with what's going on as regards economic maybe appliances, and I'll just really feel spikes of bright lights, but really the country's in a dark state, and few sparks of bright light is not going to do anything really. We really need major transformation and really sitting on the table to make things get better. So that's my own state. So in the next 1 week, I really don't see any. I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but realistically speaking, I really don't see any change, except there's a divine intervention, not be as a Christian's term. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe. So you've heard it all. You can follow us on Twitter at OaksIntel. You can also follow us on Instagram at OaksIntel. We are on LinkedIn and on Facebook, Oaks Intelligence. Our website is there, www.oaksintelligence.co. Until we meet again next time, have a splendid afternoon. Thank you very much.